Hey YouTube and wrestling fans, this is Old School Ted 1 coming to you this morning. It's actually sunny outside, rain stopped, which is good. I am here with a review of NXT that occurred last night, and it started, I'll just get right into it, with a sort of a look back at the Raw match, which was the 8-man tag match between 8 NXT rookies against 4 Raw superstars, and it ended with Daniel Bryan getting a pin via small package, and Skip Sheffield and Darren Young sort of carrying around Daniel Bryan like he'd won the Super Bowl, which I thought was a bit odd, but hey, he got his win, and I was excited. And then they let go of Tarver right away and said that the management says if you don't believe in yourself, you're gone, which got this itch in the back of my head going that they're going to do the same to Daniel Bryan, and they did. They released him. And the fan reaction was sort of mixed. There's one fan, if you watch the tape, whose his jaw is hanging out as Daniel Bryan walks out, and I think he's sort of a lot of fans out there right now. They don't quite know what to make of this, and I'll get to that later a bit more in a moment. But in fact, I'm going to do a whole Danielson video after this one, almost directly after this one. But so you had this sort of pause, and you could even see the rookies sort of a bit not really knowing what to make of it. And Striker being Striker, which is, I think, cheesy and honestly rather insincere, in my opinion. But move on to the first match. They say, hey, we're going to go straight into the first match, and it's Wade Barrett versus Heath Slater. Good match. Wade Barrett is the best of the remaining 6 rookies that they showed. Hands down, very easily. He won it by catching Slater, who was going for a crossbody, put him up into his little slam, attitude adjustment, but over the top sort of maneuver, fireman's carry, except laterally, if you will. Anyway, decent match. Slater did really well. You saw much more formation from Wade Barrett. Scale of 1 to 10, I'd give that about 6.5 stars. Good way to demonstrate Wade Barrett's superiority at this point in time, which led us to the next match, which was an interesting one. I was kind of curious about this one, and that was David Otunga versus Justin Gabriel, and hands down, Otunga's best match. But that's still not saying much. He's still not that impressive to me at all. Just really didn't see much from him. He won with his spinebuster slam sort of thing. It was interesting. Didn't really do too much of a story. They showed Gabriel missing a couple high-risk moves, which led to the finish, which does tell somewhat of a little bit of a story. But on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe a 6, probably closer to a 5 3/4 stars. Didn't do too much for me at all. And then they moved on to the last match, which was Skip Sheffield against Darren Young, which I thought was really interesting because I think either one of these two guys could have gone at the end. And this was close to being the best match of the night between Barrett and Slater's match and this match, because you saw Darren Young doing fairly well. In my opinion, Darren Young's dropped way off from where he was previously as far as being sort of hot at the moment. So I wasn't overly surprised to see Sheffield get the win. I liked kind of the way Sheffield's going, and I was thinking at the end of this match that they'll keep him because I think he's got a lot of potential. And then you got to the eliminations, and they showed the pros poll, and number 1 is Wade Barrett. That should be, there's no real doubt or discussion about that. Number 2 is David Otunga. Huh? Okay, yes, he did get a match against Cena. He did tag with Cena. That's nice. He was never anywhere close to beating Cena, unlike Daniel Bryan. Yeah, wasn't really sure on that. Number 3 was Justin Gabriel. I'm okay with that. Number 4 with Heath Slater. I kind of like that because I think he needs to be further back in the pack because he still hits me as generic face number 2, set move number 1. Just nothing that really grabs me. I still think he'll be better as a heel. I think that's a good direction for him to go. But once again, a clone of Randy Orton in a way, his style and his movements and stuff. Anyway, so then they were going, well, there's only one spot left, and who's it going to be? And they brought up Darren Young and Heath Slater. Sure enough, it was Slater to go. which doesn't make much sense to me. But I guess they like Darren Young's look, or they like something about him. And Slater said that he'd been misguided, but not by William Regal, which I thought was a bit classy, and that he wasn't thrilled, and so he walked off a lot. And as soon as I saw the credits roll or the little WWE icon in the right-hand corner, my thought was, well, the crap's going to hit the fan. And sure enough, fans started blogging, and I've seen people screaming on both on YouTube here as well as on other places. The forums that I'm on, people were either gloating or they were generally really ticked off. No real middle ground. I've heard some general concepts and ideas, such as you'll see Heath Slater, or not Heath Slater, you'll see Skip Sheffield and Tarver again. But the thing that I thought, the moment that a lot of people have overlooked, is that point in the show where you actually saw Stryker interviewing Daniel Bryan, and he actually said Daniel Bryan's done, but Bryan Danielson. And you had that moment of Matt Stryker suddenly laughing and covering up and sort of cutting off, going, "Oh, I'm sure you'll be fine, Bryan." And that gave me a glimmer of hope. So here's what I think. And I'll go more into this in depth in the following interview. I think you will see, there's a few options. And don't worry, that's my first thought. Don't panic. If by next NXT you have not seen Daniel Bryan in some shape or form, or Bryan Danielson, if you will. I will now call him Bryan Danielson. If you've not seen him in some shape or form, or perhaps Sheffield or Tarver, then you can start to worry a bit. He hasn't been released. His Twitter is still up, page is still up, and if you remember correctly, the minute they release people or talk about releasing him, they just nix that right away. So it sort of leads you to believe that he's not really going to go anywhere. And there's numerous options. The Raw options I'll talk about, like I said, on the following video, but the NXT options, the first one that comes to my mind is next week you could have Sheffield and Tarver and Bryan Danielson kick the ever-living crap out of some of the rookies, like in a sneak attack sort of thing. In a way, create a heel, not even a heel side, but sort of an anti-rookie side, and just kind of to make a statement. And you could hear Michael Cole screaming about it. You could hear all sorts of stuff going on, which I think would be interesting because it would get all three of them over. More so Sheffield and Tarver, but it would definitely put Daniel Bryan. It'll take me a few videos, I think. Bryan Danielson back on the map, which I think is any time that he has is going to be decent, as long as they let him actually wrestle. So that's one option. The other option is a last chance match, where next week they could say, hey, the guys have been eliminated, we're going to give them another match, and even take whoever's going to be eliminated next week and put them in that. Make it a 4-way and say whoever's going to wins this match will be back in it. You could even go 5-way. You could even say the 1 through 3 are safe, but 4 and 5 have to wrestle the other guys who've been eliminated, which I think would be an interesting match. Create a level of desperation. You could almost do the whole show in an elimination match style. I think that would be interesting. I would watch that. I would find that interesting. And then you could have Cole screaming about Bryan Danielson's been eliminated. Why is he back? All this other stuff. The other option would probably be to have, as far as NXT goes, is to have the pros come back and be allowed to choose somebody to bring back, like a pro's choice, if you will. And then you could bring back Bryan Danielson, because I have a feeling all the pros want him back. Especially those who faced him so far, I'd say definitely Chris Jericho wants him back. I imagine Christian and the rest of them, all the guys that are technical and smaller and appreciate that, would definitely want him back, I believe. But those are my thoughts on NXT for right now. On the show as a whole, it's definitely an important one. Let's see next week before I give it a grade. Till next time, old school Ted 1. See you next time.